with me this week is my consummate friend, buddy, and co-host, Killzil. What's happening, man?
Howdy, folks.
You have a very mellow hat on tonight, Zill. You
I
look like
do.
you're going to a poetry jam. I think it looks cool.
Really? A poetry jam. I think they're called poetry slams, just so you know. Yeah,
So,
snap my
anyway,
fingers to it. Open mic night.
open
Please don't
mic
put me
night for
on.
Zill. I will always listen to your poetry if you need an ear, buddy.
Oh, I
So,
like minions. Yes, I do. Go ahead.
so we're going to talk about silver and them silver scrapes. What you got to do to get out of it. We did bronze last week, so if you're silver, listen to the bronze podcast. Good night, everybody. Okay, so that was a joke, but it's also true. Everything that will help you get out of bronze will also help you get out of silver. A lot of the champion recommendations are going to be the same, and for a lot of the same reasons. Because you need to not add variables to your gameplay, right? So you're like, well, I'm not bronze anymore, so I can give up these easy, effective champions and switch to something more mechanically intense. Wrong. Don't do it. Just keep on keeping on, man. Life's a garden. Dig it. Zill, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, that's fundamentally I agree with that. Certainly in terms of like what champions you're picking, right? Like you definitely don't want to complicate that just yet. I really don't think. I think that's the attraction in silver, right? People want to play the flashy champs with all the combos. People want to be able to 1v9, and it's just like you know, don't do that. Learn your. You still got to work on your basics, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me, it's like
Hold
basics
on.
are not just.
It's
Go ahead.
like, I'm silver. I can play Yasuo and Zed now.
No, you can't.
No. Don't. You know what? Here's the thing. You're silver. You've just learned how to ride a bike. You don't need to go pod racing in Star Wars. Totally different piece of equipment. It runs way faster and shit shoots lasers at you when you do it.
Now
Let's
that's
not
bike
complicate it.
riding. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Yeah, you just took off the training wheels, man. This is not the time to go pod race. I know that kid did it, but he was a fucking Jedi. So don't do it. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. You had a thought.
Oh no. That's that makes sense to me. I have some ideas on what I think things you should work on next in silver. But
Oh,
are we ready for
whoa.
that?
Yeah, we're getting there. So,
Okay.
we've talked about bronze. We talked about a lot of the basic stuff about CSing. Know what your champion does, like ins and outs of what champions you should pick, what champions you should play, and like how to effectively trade. And that was like poke people out or be aggressive or whatever you're gonna do. We talked about that and we covered a lot of that.
Mm.
Again, all that stuff still it's like bronze, now you're in silver, do more of that. Right? Like you need to perfect what you've put work in on. Right? You can get
Sure.
out of bronze still being terrible at those things, and you need to get to the point where you're like meh. And if you get to meh at it, then you're probably going to get out of silver pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Before we get into real fundamental tips, I'm going to drop a truth bomb. If you are stuck in silver, ego has no place in your climb. It is the number one thing that gets people stuck in the rank that they're in is they go, I'm way better than this. I know I'm better than this. I'm just getting held back. I'm just this, I'm just that. And the reality is, like if you are better consistently, then games will show that over time. If you play 200 games and you're silver, you're probably meant to be silver, right? I mean, unless you're like on a straight upward trajectory and you just happen to start in iron, right? But if you've plateaued after that many games, that's probably where you're at.
Yeah.
So the reality is, and that's not a bad thing. Everybody's got to be silver once. I was still.
Yes. Yes. I was bronze for my first season. I got to bronze 3. That was as high as I climbed. And like, yeah, I think the mental, as far as like not tilting and all that stuff is one thing, but then having this cloud over your head of like, yeah, I know I'm better than this, and I'm still hard stuck in silver. And whether you blame your teammates or you blame matchmaking or whatever it is, like you really got to cut that shit out. That is not going to help you climb. If anything, it's just going to make you more frustrated when you lose a game or start to lose a game of all things. So yeah, tackling that initial like mental issue is for sure going to help you climb. Like you've got to put that out of your mind because it's one less thing you're focusing on. Then you can focus on actually learning and doing the basic shit you're supposed to do. Yeah, I was stuck in low elo for a very long time, and I had friends who actually were also, most of my friends were in silver because I was in silver and I played with them, right? I still have some of those friends on my friend list, but I don't really play with them anymore, and they're all still stuck in silver. One of the big reasons was that their mentality was, we are better than this. I think at the time, that was when you could do team matchmaking. Wasn't that a thing back in like season 4 or 5, right? Where you could
Yeah.
like set up a team and the team would have a rank.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
these guys thought that because their team rank was diamond, right, that they were actually diamond players in solo queue of that era. And they went into every game playing that way. And it wasn't until I like broke away from them and was like, okay, maybe this silver, 2 thresh isn't going to carry me like to my dream of being gold, right? And yeah,
Doesn't
it
it
was like,
seem weird to think that way now, looking back?
yeah, definitely.
And it's like, here's the thing. I told you guys about, I have a friend who plays League. I just found out that one of my real life friends plays League. And I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And he's like, oh yeah, probably gold. Didn't really play ranked. You know, played a long time ago. And, I don't know, but I'm probably around gold. And I said, okay. There was like so many red flags in that. And,
Right.
the reality is, no, he's not. It's not even close. And he's
What is
well
he?
and solidly in bronze.
Oh,
But
okay, yeah,
but like not in iron.
it's goldish color wise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty close. I mean, it's not that silvery color. It's some off crap. But that being said, like, yeah, he's solidly in bronze, and that's fine. Like, I
yeah,
could teach him the things he needs to know to get out. I could do that. I could focus on it and say, "Hey, this game we're going to do this." And then we focus on that thing, whatever it is, and we devote 4 or 5 games to it or as many games as it takes to make whatever that is feel like second nature. And
yeah,
as soon as we've locked down whatever that skill is, we move on to a different one.
yeah.
And whenever I got diamond, the very first time, that's how I did it. Because I went, okay, what's my problem? Why am I not crusting out of the top of plat? It's like I get ganked a lot. Okay, if I'm getting ganked a lot, that means I'm failing to ward or I'm failing to look at the map.
Right.
Because if my ADC gets ganked or whatever, like if I'm looking at the map, I'd be like ping, 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 and then we all back up. And if the idiot doesn't back up, whatever, it's on him,
It's on
right?
him.
Like fuck him. I told him, can't make people play smart, but whatever. So I realized I had a deficiency there, and I thought, how the fuck am I gonna accomplish this? Like, what am I gonna do, to get over this? I was like, well, I need a ward at every game because this was at the time that I first hit diamond. This was at a rank where you would get ganked like clockwork at between 2:30 and 3:30.
Yep.
That was the gank window
Yep.
on the timer, right? Because they would clear one buff and then one camp and gank. Because that was how you got level like 2 or 3 or whatever. Like one
They
buff,
went
one
back and
camp.
forth with what level you got at that time, yes, but
Yeah.
like it was always timed around the 2.5 minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
Especially,
And
I mean, top and bot lanes especially were
yeah.
ganked at those times.
So it's like I just then went and on to a straight up habit of, okay, every game I ward that bush at 2 minutes 20 or two
Mm,
minutes 30 or whatever, and then I do that every minute. And I am making a specific effort to watch my trinket until it comes off cooldown. And the second it does, I run my happy ass back up there and I ward again.
yeah,
Right? I literally did that, focusing on only that and everything. I mean, I didn't play like shit. I didn't like not do the stuff I do. It just, I put specific effort into doing that one thing over and over again. That was my focal point of every game I played.
sure.
My deaths to ganks went through the floor because of that, because that was the thing I was focusing on. So I wasn't dying to ganks. We were winning more games. Bot lane was carrying without giving up the lead we generated, and it worked. And the funny thing is, after doing it for 10 games, it became second nature, and then I just did it
Yeah,
automatically. It's like muscle memory essentially. And I didn't have to even think about it. I was always like, I felt an internal timer go off. It was like I had an hourglass or something in my brain and it just
yeah, because
flipped.
you're building those instincts, those things that will save your life. Those just it goes off. It's second nature, and that is. I feel like building those like base instincts is a really important part of being silver. Like first you learn how to CS, right? But then you learn how to CS and also like look at the mini map, you know,
Mm-hmm.
every 10, 15 seconds, that kind of thing.
Well, I'll tell you this.
And
If you can master looking at the mini map in silver, okay. I've talked a lot on this podcast about the plat glass ceiling because that is literally the hardest plateau to break is if you get stuck as plat. I think that's the hardest one to get out of because the problem is that there's so many ways to get to plat, but there's only really one way to get out of plat. And so a lot of people can skill their way in various combinations of being good at a few things to get into plat, but they never spent the time building the basics they need to be a good player. And so what'll happen is they'll essentially like, I don't want to say one trick their way into plat because that's not what I mean, but I mean one trick in the
you kind of
tournament.
do that, not necessarily with a champion, but with
Right, with a
a set
skill.
of skills. Yeah,
Right. So
I
like
think.
I'm a mechanical god.
Yeah,
Okay, you'll cap out at plat.
yeah,
Or I'm really good at map play. Okay, you'll cap out at plat without the other components to that, right?
yeah.
But like to snap out of plat, you really have to learn, like you have to have finely tuned instincts on when to fight, when not to fight, etc. And it's so much easier to do when you build those good instincts in silver and gold
Yeah.
because you're building on something instead of like I built this wobbly ass tower and now I've got to go back down to the ground level and build like support rods to put on the side of it so it doesn't blow over in the wind, right?
Right.
It's much easier if you take the time when you started on the foundation of the tower to really lay a good strong one because you're building on that shit.
Yeah.
And the reality is you may never be able to break the glass ceiling of platinum if you don't have a solid foundation in silver and gold now.
Mm.
Because I don't care if you have a wobbly fucking tower, it's always going to be wobbly unless you really dedicate time into breaking shit down and going back and fixing your like bad, like let's say you have bad
And that's what
habits.
feels bad, right? Like, take it from someone who's been there. Like, that feels way fucking worse than just having a silver logo for what your rank is. Like, having to be a gold player and not being able to keep up with the other gold players is way fucking worse than being a silver player who is genuinely silver.
Unless you're
Like,
super into end of season rewards, then it's way better.
Fine.
So
I've never gotten that much of a rise out of end of season rewards. I've much more enjoyed my experience when I'm actually winning games, but whatever.
So I mean, okay, so let's start. And like I've talked about building this foundation to plat. I've talked
Yeah.
about like these skills you need to focus on, like what you need to build on, what you don't. There are some essential skills of League of Legends that you will always need, that will always serve you well, and that you can hone now and build good habits now before it's too late. Because well, I mean, I guess it's never truly too late if you're willing to tear down, so like tear yourself back down and start over, right? Because like, okay, I need to elaborate on what I was saying about plat before I go on this a little further.
Okay.
Um, to get to diamond, you have to learn to kind of like fight on the razor's edge until you either win, lose, or die. Right? It's the elo in which you must master the concept of putting everything on the line and all-inning for a victory. Right? If you every mistake you make in silver and in bronze and in gold leads you to some incorrect logical conclusions that seep into your decision making process that aren't true. I'll never fight under tower, not true. You will and you should. And if you're a diamond player and you want to be a diamond player, then you have to throw those preconceived notions out because you'll do anything, even stupid things, if it make normally stupid things, if it makes sense in the moment in order to achieve a greater goal. That's how a diamond player thinks. So what if I died? I killed four other people and their team died, right? A silver player go, I don't want to die. But that's not how a diamond player thinks. So, in order to clear up your understanding and clear up your viewpoint of what is eventually going to be a worthwhile action or not, you need to clear all the garbage that you've accumulated out of your like filter. Right? Like if you think of playing League like a fish tank, every bad decision and bad takeaway is like grime or algae that gets up in your fish tank, sucked in, trapped in your filter, and after a while, you've got a really fucking disgusting filter. But unlike a fish tank, you can't just buy a new one and pop it in, right? You have to actually go scrub that shit. And what I'm telling you is if you build those good habits now, if you build having a good foundation for decision making now, you'll get to diamond and have way less to scrub off that filter when you do. Me, for example, the very first time I broke out of silver, for the record, I was also bronze in my first season. I almost got out, and then I thought how cool it would be to play Ezreal. Right back down to the bottom of bronze. And I mean, I was fine at playing Ezreal, but I was a terrible ADC. So I did poorly as shit. And I deserved that rank, and that's fine. The second season that I played, I got right up to the top of silver and got stuck. Then the third season I played, gold. The second I hit gold, I flew right through it and went straight into plat.
See, silver was actually the shortest elo for me.
The gold was for me.
I went from bronze 3 to gold 1 in a single season. But yeah, it was I don't know. I like going back to what you're saying though. I think for me, it's like there is knowing these rules, right? And you have to learn the rules, I think, in order to learn how to break them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't but the rules are still there for low elo. I think that's one of the things you and I might disagree on a little bit. Is I think fighting under tower and not dying are things to learn at the silver elo and have hard rules about those. It's just that when you're going to get to gold and when you're going to climb, you're going to have to eventually question them. But I think not dying is a great first rule. That was my first rule that
Oh god, I disagree so hard.
I know you disagree.
I think not killing is a bad rule. Like you kill like straight up genocidal
Loot
maniac.
gracefully. Fight again another day. Don't die. Those were the rules that got me through silver, and I wasn't even in there full season. Like I was gone. I
Oh
never got.
no, cool. I'm just saying like the difference is I murdered my way through and out of silver.
That's
And
great.
then flew like a rocket straight through
I
to
made
the
people
top
want
of
to kill
plat.
themselves until I climbed. That's what happened. I played Teemo only all the way through silver from bronze 3 to gold 1. And like I just when I would get I knew when I would get ganked, I warded, I watched the map, I CS properly, and I didn't die. And eventually, like I out CS'd everyone, in my lane, and that's how I won. So I don't know. It was just I think there's multiple ways to do that, but for me, those like hard, fast rules. Now, eventually, questioning them was important.
Mm-hmm.
Like running in with a bomb on my head and a Zill up my pocket. Like I know what I can do to dive. But if it early on having that being a KDA player and then trying to build off those skills really helped me. And I think for people who just are like going for one or trying to always go for the kill, like should have some rhyme or reason for what they're doing, right?
Well, here's my point in that. If you are that person who's always trying to one for one, go for the kill, whatever, right? And it's just like
Mhm.
kill, kill, kill. You are building a skill set in the ability to fight. You also, the difference is just like the person that needs to
You're
not,
building a mechanical skill set. I don't think you're
right.
building a skill set in how to fight
Oh,
because I
wait.
think you're still
I'll
picking
get there.
fight.
Hang on.
Oh,
I'll
all
get
right.
there. You are correct, sir. You are building a skill set in mechanics and how to execute, right?
Sure.
However, it will also teach you how to fight if you let it. The difference is this. Whereas you will come from the point of I will not die and then I need to learn when to aggress. I
Sure.
come from the standpoint of I will murder you and I need to learn when to relax and let things go and happen. Right? I think it's easier and I think you'll get through with a cleaner filter if you come from a standpoint of I want to kill you no matter what and get my advantages no matter what, then if you and then learn when to take your foot off the gas, then learning like driving like a grandma and learning when to floor it. You understand what I mean? Because I think it's very
I,
difficult.
I just highly disagree, especially when it comes to climbing, because like you learn to take your foot off the gas, but now you're 0 and 4. So like you
Right. Well,
fed them, and
this
now you
game,
figured it
yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's my point
Cool.
is
They're
whenever
fed.
you're
You
whenever you're
lose.
on the murder train, right? The murder train don't stop at the station. It just keeps going, baby. It keeps town to town. Murder Central. That's where we're going. Grand Murder Central Station.
Okay.
And when we get there, you've had a long and bloody trail. It's going to be hard. You're going to fail. And you're going to go games where you go 0 and whatever. And that's fine if you learn from those games. Because in those cases where you went 0 to 4 and you failed, you either failed mechanically, and that's fine, you learn from that, like you practice, right? Nobody played Dragon Force the first time,
Yeah.
you know, or you failed in decision making and you learn from that and you go, well, maybe this is a foot off the gas moment, right? The problem is, it's for me, it's easier to identify, okay, I fucked up taking an opportunity. It's harder to identify, I never took an opportunity, I played it safe. Where was the opportunity?
Hmm.
Like it's easier to analyze failure.
I disagree, especially in silver, because I think it's pretty obvious. Like I have way more faith in one of their silver players being aggro and making mistakes than I have in my faith to be aggro and have success. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm way more reliant on them fucking up, and they do it frequently in silver, very frequently.
Oh yeah.
And so it's I think it's relatively easy to identify when someone overextends or
Well, no,
is
no, no. That's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is,
okay.
in your gameplay, not whenever your opponent fucks up. It's always like the guy walks down with his
But
pants
you
down and he walks backwards into lane.
opportunities directly related to when your opponent fucks up.
Yeah, okay.
Easy to identify opportunities.
Mhm.
Very.
I don't think so. Because like there are times where let's say my opponent well, here's the thing. Let's say my opponent throws out all their abilities and I'm playing passively and I just take the farm instead of trading, right? Because they don't have any abilities, they can't really trade effectively with me. I'll do more damage than they will,
Yeah, they'll do
right?
that 20 times during lane phase.
Sure. But let's say I let that opportunity go by. I don't have a mechanism by which I'm going to go, okay, I fucked up here because I was too passive. I didn't take that opportunity because you didn't fail. And because you didn't fail, it reinforces that I was right in not taking that opportunity and playing passive. When
It's that
if
you're
you're
right.
not
It's
taking
just
that
that you're
opportunity,
not wrong. Like I
what?
think I don't think it's necessarily right. I just think it's that you're not wrong. I think that like doing the neutral thing is just like okay, we're still at 0-0. There was no gain, but that doesn't necessarily mean you fucked up or that you were right. It's just that you weren't wrong. That was okay to do during that time. Now there are things that you could do that would improve on that. You could capitalize on them. Zed putting out his shadow. You could punish that.
Yeah.
You could see the trading stance happen where they go up and hit a minion, and you can see the opportunity for you to actually hit them back where they can't do anything because they're very vulnerable during that moment in time. But like you can see that 20, 50 times during the lane phase in silver. And like once you get one or two successes with that, you'll start to identify. And because it happens so frequently, it's very easy to capitalize on. I think that when you tower dive, what people tend to do is they have the adrenaline going through them, right? And they try to justify it, and they try to think that or they go, oh, that was bullshit. There's just so much like extra shit happening for them to keep track of that they like don't actually learn anything. And we just have the one for one trades, and we just have the mental, oh, that was fucking bullshit going on.
Sure.
And it's like
Okay.
that calm, level headed play of watching someone blowing their abilities over and over and over again, rhythmically trading, minions back and forth, constantly checking to see the CS to see if you guys are even. That even keel, slow and steady as she goes, play, I think is very good for learning and watching for details.
I
Because
mean, look,
it's a game of details.
I mean, okay. A lot of what you're saying does have merit. I'm not dismissing what you're saying entirely, right?
Yeah,
So, however, I'm going to say like the advantage to learning through failure is that it gives you an identifiable point that you can look back on and say, this is where I fucked up. How do I adjust my play because I fucked up here enough that I killed myself going overboard, right? It's easy to realize that you've made a mistake when you've gone over the edge and you're splashing into the ocean, right? Is that game lost? Probably. You're not going to do too hot and it's going to be frustrating, but you can use that as a definitive learning moment.
sure.
Where you failed to trade, there's no definitive learning moment there. You just, everything kind of planes out and goes fine. I don't think.
If your opponent's trading properly, right, and you aren't, there's going to be a CS difference, a big one. Like
Yeah,
especially
I mean that's true. But if you're not,
it's in
if
the fucking tab key. You
what
just
I'm saying
press.
is if you're not putting pressure on them and they're not putting pressure on you and you're both content to CS, there may not be a big discrepancy, but you're not neither of you is taking advantage of the person's positioning or their abilities. You're just content to farm. And if you're content, then you're not pushing what your gameplay could be to the limit. And if you're not doing that, the plat glass ceiling is going to be very thick. And that's my point.
To
Is
get out
like
of plat, you mean?
yeah, to get out of plat.
Sure. I mean, the plat glass ceiling is incredibly thick for me. I haven't gotten out. I haven't been diamond yet.
Yeah.
But like, I think that and yeah, maybe that is part of the case. I don't know.
But
Um,
but anyway, let me go back to I'm gonna finish this last and then I'll let
okay,
you take
sure.
and then we'll go from there. Uh so yes, you have those definitive moments. Yeah, I think it's easier to stop rather than go. Of course, mentally, I am literally the polar opposite of Zill. We both made it to plat with completely different philosophies. I think they're both valid, right? I think for some people it's easier to add than it is to pull back. I have trouble, and my problem playing down in lower elos is I can't pull back. Like I have a difficulty
Difficulty
not
picking up, Blake. Is that what I'm hearing?
do what?
You can't pull out. Is that
Yeah,
what?
that's why I have two kids.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nope, we're doing this straight to the finish. Let's go. So anyway, I just I have a problem with that. Like I can't take my foot off the gas, and it is a problem that causes me to have difficulty when I play down. But to me, that's not why you're. If you're playing solo queue, you're playing to climb, not to, not play down later or whatever. But I think like a huge portion of learning the game and learning your limits and learning what's appropriate and building on good habits is constantly reviewing what it is you're doing mentally, taking yourself into a third party perspective. It wasn't what you did, it was whatever mid laner did. View it that way. Determine whether or not your failure was mechanical or whether your failure was like in your choice and decision making,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then figure out what you could have done better. Because like a lot of people will go, "Oh, well, if I'd have only done this, then I would have won it." That's fine. And that's not that is not evaluating your play. That's making an excuse for your play. And
And
that's something
that's
that
the mental. Well, that's the mental that we were talking about with like thinking you're better than the elo that you're in, right? It's like,
Mhm. And I think you are right whenever you said the people like me they have a tendency to be more like, "Oh, fuck this," and bitchy, and they hurt themselves with their own mentality because they think they're hot shit, right? And
sure,
to a certain degree, that is me. I have that exact mindset in Plat, and I know it sucks
yeah,
because I get so frustrated in Plat because I'm like, these plays are good. This asshole is not following up. Well, here's the problem: is it a good play? Is it a good play if the guy I'm next to won't follow up on it? Nope, I'm just getting myself killed. Is it his fault I'm getting myself killed? Probably. But is it
partially for
but
sure.
is it my fault because I know he won't follow up on it? Yep, totally is. It is my fault because I am generating a play that I know will not be redeemed for cash value.
Yeah,
So I'm fucked up, right? Like, and so you have to get out of that mindset in silver. And there's so many good comparisons between silver and plat because they are literally the same mindset with two totally different skills, like two totally different sets of skills. So, okay, how to play, like the things that you should be focusing on. You're now out of bronze. What are some things we're going to focus on that are determinate skill outcomes of things that you will need that gold players do that silver players don't? First, items.
yeah,
Learn what your champion does, what a good item set is for that champion. Don't rush some dumb horseshit items. And look, I'm not even going to tell you that you need to change your build. Because to be honest, yes, that is optimum, changing your build for whatever you need. Oh my god, I'm Lux and I'm playing into a Zed. Maybe I rush a Zanya's. Wouldn't be a bad idea to rush a Seeker's Arm Guard. It'll give you some armor. That'll help you survive Zed's horse shit. You can start out with a little golden fucking stopwatch, and that will help you survive Zed's shit. And then maybe you turn it around with that. Cool. Good idea. But if you're just building the same items on Lux every single time, you'll still probably get out of silver doing that, even though it's suboptimum. But you need to know what items are good on your champion. Period. Do a little bit, and that's research that is not even hard to do.
no,
You
it's
go
probably
to
done for you on the internet everywhere,
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
in 100. Here's 100 websites: champion.gg, u.gg, op.gg, Blitz Esports, Overwolf. Any of these programs will tell you what a good functional item set is for your champion. Each and every one of them. So look up a good item set, realize why those things are good.
also GLP is super more efficient than Ludens right now. Just FYI, in case you didn't know for mid laners.
Cacao. So I mean, there you have it. Like there's 100 reasons why you need to build the thing you're building and understand why you're building the things you're building. Don't just be like, what's a good AP item? Death cap. You know, it is. It is a good AP item, but there are certain champions you don't really build it on.
Yeah.
But then there are certain champions you build it every time on Viger. So, and you really don't rush it, except maybe on Viger.
Second item still, but yeah.
I mean, depends on how many stacks you got, because you can get a lot of value out of that as it stacks. But anyway, that being said, know what you're building, know what's good. You can adjust later. You can learn that trick in gold. That's fine. We'll push that off till later. But know what you're building and know why, right? This is the time you need to start learning how to play champion matchups, right? You need to be thinking, you've spent a lot of time on this champion. That's how you got out of bronze. Is you learned, you just played Annie over and over again, or you played a Mumu, or you played Master Yi, or you played whatever, right? Like, I played Kog'Maw, or I don't care what you played. But at this point, you should start learning, okay, when I play Kog'Maw and they play Misfortune, this is how I need to play that. These are the things I'm looking for to win. These are the opportunities I have to trade. This is when I'm strong. This level is when I am strong compared to them. Right? When am I strong? When am I weak? When am I going to abuse my power? When do I need to hide like a bitch? It does I mean these are the things that you need to be thinking as you progress through silver. Right? Like that's it. Those are the things that you need to be thinking about in lane. Zill, what about champion matchups? Do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think like at this point in the season, I'm not sure how many games you played, but like start to like focus on the champion matchups that are really common and that are problematic for you, and dig deep into the ones that are problematic for you. I think understanding what their combos are, what their not just what their champions can do, but like what their combo is to try to kill you, or their combo is to try to trade with you, and learn how you can avoid that. I think for me, early on in Silver, I was always getting hit by Yasuo Tornado. Like it just, this is before like the five ban system. So like I wasn't able to ban Yasuo every game, but I was always getting hit by that fucking tornado. It didn't seem like what angle I went to, I was always getting hit by that. And of course, like if I got hit by that when he's 6 and he's got a kill on me or something, I'm fucking dead. Like it's awful to get caught out by that as an immobile mage. And I learned that by holding spacebar whenever he had his tornado up, was a way that I could center the camera and dodge it. Now I wouldn't lock camera by any means, but like it was just a quick trick for how I learned how to dodge Yasuo Tornado very easily. Now I don't have to use that trick anymore. It's second nature to me, but it was a good way to understand a difficult issue in a matchup I was having. And so you can like look those tricks up, or you can like look up a champion, look at their combos, watch videos on them and what they do, and those problematic matchups that you're having, you can figure out how to avoid those. Looking at matchups itemization also. I think another thing is like learning what components to build first. If you're not going to get a full item, you're not going to get a full item on your first back, right? But you want to get like Lost Chapter if you're a mid lane mage, right? As your first back, first item. But after that, what are your components for the other items that you're building? That way, you don't have like a bunch of hodgepodge things, or you don't like sit there on a bunch of gold waiting to buy the full item outright. That way that you're always at a good power level during every fight, which there are a lot of fights in games now. There's lots of skirmishes.
Well, okay, so I'll tell you this. There's a lot of reasons in silver why people lose fights that they think they should win.
Sure.
And a lot of them have to do with item power spikes and
Yeah.
like what items do you have, what items do they have. Realistically, I wouldn't even put that as a skill in silver that you need to learn. Yes, if you spend time on it, it will draw you benefits, but that is not something that people pick up realistically until high gold, low plat, and on.
Okay.
Right? I mean, I don't think, because I don't ever seem to notice that the enemy team is paying attention to what I bought or how strong I am. I don't know how many times in plat I've fought with people and they're like, "Oh, damn, when did Yasuo get 6-0? Look at all those items he's got." And they just fought him
Right.
because they thought they were strong. So, I mean, I don't see that as something that silver, like, you may have 3%. of silver players that focus on those things. And that's good because those 3% have an advantage.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to be the thing that like catapults you out of silver, right? If you pay attention to it.
Okay.
I mean, but that's just me. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
no,
it's
that's
not good. I'm just saying I don't think it's like the thing.
I can only, I'm coming at this from my own experience, and that was one of the things that I paid attention to.
Nice. You're a 3%er.
I was a 3%er. I mean, I was a frozen mallet Timo 3%er. So like, so,
I a degenerate 3% piece of shit.
so like I was not a good human being, but I did the thing, and it helped me climb. So
Yeah.
take from that what you will.
Yeah. So okay. What I would say, a lot of things that you can focus on in mid and or like mid or any laning phase kind of thing, right? We talked about matchup being important. We talked about what items you're gonna buy, and be putting thought into those items that you're gonna buy. Great, cool. Even if you buy the same thing every time, great, cool. It's silver. You can get away with that. But level spikes you need to really be aware of. And this is something that is an available opportunity for success all the way through plat, right? I know and I'm watching for when I'm going to hit level spikes. And I'm looking at the other person's level and I'm paying attention to when they're going to hit level spikes, right? Because 90% of the time, if you hit level 6 first, you can just go all in on your opponent and you'll win because you have an extra devastating skill that they do not have. And if they're not accounting for it, they won't move away from you fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like imagine you're walking up to somebody on the street, right? And then they scream out, and it's not even a big guy. Like you're time and a half the size of this guy walking down the street, whatever, right? And he's just wearing a trench coat, and you're walking by. You happen to make eye contact, and then he nods at you. You nod at him, and as you're passing on the sidewalk, he goes, "Wrestle!" And he jumps on you and throws you to the ground, right? You might have actually stood a better chance if you knew you were going to wrestle before he walked up to you, right? But him screaming wrestle, you didn't start in like Greco Roman pose. You just got manhandled on the street by a guy that's half your damn size, right? Because element of surprise. Level 6 can be screaming wrestle at a stranger on the street. That's
Level 2, but yeah.
level 2 as well. Yeah, level 2 is even better. Because
Level
like their level 1, their health bar is dog shit. The the strongest you will ever be versus the weakest you will ever be in power difference by one level is level 1 to level 2.
Yep.
It's you really should automatically win at level 2 on a level 1 unless you fight in a minion wave.
And it happens in every lane, like the level 2 power spike. It's not just a bot lane thing.
Oh, it's more pronounced in the bot lane because it's 2 level 2 power spikes.
Level 2. Yeah, sure.
Like that's the difference. Is like this is bad. 4 levels to 2 is worse. Right?
Yeah.
Like because instead of it being 2 levels to 1, it's 4 levels to 1 and 4 levels to another. Because you only go in on one at a time. So it's not even 4 on 2, it's just 4 on 1. And then it's another 4 on 1 after that if they didn't run like cowards. So I mean, you've got a spike there. Be ready for it. Be ready to engage the second you hit it and scream wrestle, and you'll be the sexual aggressor in the trench coat. In my previous example, the wrestle will go your way. Odds are. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So, level power spikes are a big deal. Macro play. Other than knowing where the dragon pit is and where Baron is, I don't know that macro play really matters all that much in silver. It is really nice to grab barons when you can, or dragons when you can. The Baron almost feels like a trap in Silver because people don't go for it appropriately, or they go for it instead of ending the game.
Yeah, yeah. I was
And
gonna say like when the jungler's dead and the majority of the team's dead, maybe you can think about it. But no, usually in those cases they should push for an inhib, and instead they go bear.
so
Yeah,
they go Baron. So I mean,
sad. Yeah,
like Baron is the thing that gets you inhibitors. If you can just get an inhibitor, go get it. That's what you want.
yeah. And
So,
then it's more likely to get a baron maybe. But like, yeah, I don't know.
because I mean, in most games, like I was playing a game the other night, and it was me and Ernie. We were playing. I got seated in gold 4 this year. That's where I started my climb. Now I'm gold 1, and we were playing this game, and we had just taken an inhibitor, 2 inhibitors. And after we took the 2 inhibitors, the team was kind of just waffling around in their jungle trying to figure out what to do. And I literally just told them, back up, go ahead, we'll take Baron while they're dealing with our supers, because they have 2 waves of supers in base. If they show up, kill them. If they don't, take the Baron, walk in our remaining minions, and blow up their nexus. Yeah, I
Yep.
typed that out. We all backed. We all went straight to Baron. They didn't contest. We got Baron. We walked it down one of our lanes, got all of our minions together, pushed through and won. That was the game, right? In Silver, that should realistically be the only way you do Baron.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, it's a nice fat throw mechanic. Fucking Dignitas couldn't master when to take Baron in the goddamn LCS. You're not going to do it in Silver solo queue. Because one thing that you have to learn in in taking Baron is vision control, and that's not something you're going to master until gold or probably higher.
Yeah, probably higher.
So,
I think as far as macro play goes, the one thing that will like I really think focusing on lane phase in silver is like a really important part of this. Um, I,
I'm nodding
yeah,
viciously. Yes,
okay.
I agree. Yes.
So like that's why most of my answers to this have really been keyed toward lane phase.
Well,
Uh,
okay, so before you finish, the reason that is because lane phase will always be the one thing you will do in every game. Every
yep.
single game, you will lane phase. So
Yeah.
it's very good to put energy towards mastering a skill that will be repeated in each and every game that you play.
Yeah, and focusing on when it comes to itemization, your first 2 items, right, and like
Mm-hmm.
that second item is more your situational item choice, whereas your first item is that core item choice, right? Like this early part of the game is like where you really should be focusing. I really should have emphasized that
And
more
listeners,
now.
when just so you guys know, when Zill and I agree directly on anything, you should be paying attention to that because it's essentially
Okay, here we go.
gospel.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So and then the other thing, when it comes to macro, when I think of macro, I think of map awareness, and I think of map awareness in lane phase. So
Yeah.
I think of like when your laner fucking leaves, right? And not just pinging your lane missing, but pinging the lane that you're pretty sure they're going to, right? With a warning ping, and I mean like double tap it, right? Like ping
Ding
twice,
ding.
and especially if you're up against someone who
Yeah.
roams, that
Put
kind
it
of thing
on their screen.
on their screen, not just your screen. Don't just ping your lane with the question mark. The only person who's looking at that is you. Like no one in silver is seeing that ping. You have to put it on their screen, especially for bot lane. You have to put it on their support screen
Yeah,
in
that's a
order to.
good habit all the way up.
Yes, absolutely. But like, so macro play, right? We're talking about like what's happening around the map, not just what's on your screen. It's pinging the other lanes when they're going to get ganked. Pinging your lane missing. That goes together. It's also when it comes to knowing where their jungle is, you're not going to jungle track. No one's like at that level yet. That's fine. But you should know when you're going to likely get ganked. Okay. So that's that instinct of like, I'm pushed up really far. If I got ganked right now, I'd be in trouble. It's that like, okay, I know in the first 4 minutes of the game, there's likely going to be a gank to a particular lane at a particular time. What lane is that? Is it mine? And focus on getting out of that first gank. Because if they come to your lane and they gank you, and even if they blow your flash, as long as they don't kill you, like they've mostly wasted your time. Because in silver, no one's going to follow up on a second gank if they've blown your flash. That's in my opinion, at least with
No,
junglers.
it's very unlikely.
Very unlikely. So you wasted your flash. Like no, you saved your team some pressure elsewhere. Is probably how you can kind of think of that. And the third like macro thing I think of when I think of macro and silver is watching your mini map as much as you possibly can. And I think it's like just trying to get in the habit of looking over there is fine. There's people who set timers, right, and try to look over there every time the timer goes off. There's some people that's like every time they kill a cannon, they look over and look at the mini map. Any one of those tricks is great, but if you can get to a point where you can keep the CS up, right, that you learn in bronze, CS properly, but also look at the mini map, I swear to God, that skill will take you to plat. Like, I mean, if you get good at that skill, just the looking at the fucking mini map while you're CSing and keeping your CS numbers up, that alone can skyrocket you. It is such a crucial backbone skill, and it takes you so far. But yeah, that's
So
macro in my.
here's a trick for how often you should really be looking at the mini map. If you have watched the camera, and you can back up the stream if you're watching it, watch my eyes while Zil was talking there. What I was
Yeah,
doing is I was looking at him talking, then looking down in the bottom right corner of my PC to see, as if I was trying to watch the minutes change on the clock. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I was looking down just to try to make it happen. And by the way, I did watch it change. It went
yeah,
to. So I
yeah,
mean, that's how often you need to be looking at the minimap. Ideally,
yeah.
I don't even do that enough in the game. Like if you watch Faker play and you watch Pro play, there was a segment that they did like, oh, I want to say it was in season like 4 or 5. Like they did the science of esports and why are these guys so much better than everybody else at what's essentially a video game, right? And like, why is Meteos so good? And this was back when he was on like C9 and he was the hot shit jungler. They were tracking his eyes, him and Sneaky. I think it was a C9 thing. They
Sure.
were tracking their eyes as they were playing to see like where they're looking on the map and where they're taking in information from. And their eyes were moving around so much that they were taking in something like 23 times the amount of information as the average person who plays games. Like the
Jesus.
average person who plays games fixates at a certain point on the screen and then they occasionally look off or do this or do that. And Sneaky and Meteos' shit was like here, 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 there, here, over there. Like looked like I was just taking dots and just smacking them randomly on the screen.
And like describing what that actually does, like we can say it, but here's when you start to master that, here's what it feels like. All right, it feels like bullet time enables during lane phase, because all of a sudden the game slows way the fuck down for you because you can see things coming from a mile away, and you'll look over and you'll start to notice this, and this is when you know you're getting good at it, is you'll look over and you'll see their jungler just like hanging out by a ward, doing nothing, right? And then you'll see the jungler like move somewhere, and then you'll see, oh, he's headed bot lane,
I
and
yeah,
you'll have like 8 seconds,
it's the
right?
difference between trying to react to something and then having like spider sense about it and then you
Yeah,
know it's going to happen and then it does and then you react to it.
it's like you're in the fucking future, man. And
So
then
like
and
there
be
was a
able to go that skill you have of like pinging the lane that you think your laner is going to, or pinging the lane that you think is going to get ganked. All of a sudden, you'll just enable that whenever you see their jungler moving down bot lane, and you'll waste the jungler's time. You may even get them to into kill. Their support may flash, in
Mm-hmm.
and get killed. And your lane will know everything that's coming because you've given that information. I can't tell you how much that matters in solo queue, giving your teammates the information they need to do the right things. Because a lot of times in silver, they can react to things a little bit, but like if they have a couple of seconds ahead of time to know what's going to happen, man, that makes such a fucking difference.
Mm-hmm. So like there was a clip that was like, "Wow, Wild Turtle's so good," and he was. And this was at his height when Wild Turtle played on TSM, and how good he was in comparison to the rest of the field. And there was a clip where a Malphite ulted out of a bush, and Wild Turtle flashed the Malphite ult, not having he was in an unwarded bush. And they're like the amount of time that he had to register that Malphite was ulting him was under half a second before it hit. He had like a quarter second to actually input the flash before he got hit, and he did it in like an eighth of a second. And they're like, "Wow, that's crazy! It's like an eighth of a second. He's superhuman." Right? Because
Yeah,
like the human reaction time to just process that information should have been at least a quarter of a second before he could
yeah,
even like be aware of it. The reason he was able to do that is because he took in information that wasn't readily available and determined that it is very likely that Malphite is there.
yeah,
Before that fight even started, he's like, "Wow, they're hard pushing the lane." You know, nobody's seen Malphite on the map. He should be on the bottom side of the map. I've been tracking the jungle, and it is likely that I'm being dove right now because of the way they're moving, the way they're acting, and my routes cut off, and blah blah blah. Right?
yeah,
So even though he couldn't see the Malphite, he had intuition that it was going to be there, and the reaction time and mechanics to be able to execute that.
yeah,
Right? I mean, that's still an amazing fucking play. But it's to me twice as amazing because it's not just that he did something inhumanly fast. It's that he also predicted that through experience and skill and through taking in information that's readily available but not processed by everybody who plays the game, that something was going to happen. Like that to me is more incredible than even the like ungodly, unrealistic flash timing to be able to pull that shit off, even if he didn't know he was there, right?
yeah.
So those kind of things, like, do I expect in silver that you're going to be flashing Malphite ults left and right out of bushes? Oh hell no! I wouldn't have even pulled off that. Like, not a fucking chance. I'd have been knocked up and murdered.
And what's better, like having the mechanics to flash the Malphite ult, or like having the foreknowledge to know that the Malphite is ganking?
Having the
Um,
foreknowledge, 100%.
yeah, yeah,
You know, and so these are the kind of things that you can be working on in silver is to be thinking like what are ways that I can think about the game to improve my execution of it, right? And you need to be building on a good foundation of execution practices, right? Like, this is physically how I execute these things. Make your movements with your champions crisper, make your mechanics cleaner, practice inputting combos, right?
mm,
Like, whenever I learned Katarina, she is one of the most difficult to pilot champions that I can come up with, right? I mean, there are others that are higher, but to play her effectively, it's very, very difficult. And I had to master throw Q, E, W, or EW, then throw Q. EW, throw Q, get a kill, reset all that in a quarter of a second, input all of your damage within a quarter of a second.
mm-hmm.
It's easy to do that combo in a second. It's real hard to do it in a quarter of a second, and you have to learn how to do it like you're playing piano to do it any faster than that, but it's doable.
Mhm.
right? And that's the kind of stuff is knock down your, like with Lux, perfect example of what I'm talking about. With Lux, if you shoot a binding that you know is going to hit, you can go Q straight to E, hop E on its way there, and then fire your ult all within that fast.
Yeah.
If you know it's coming, it's QEER. Done. And they can't dodge it because the bind on the Q will not have worn off by the time the ult hits. If you're fast enough.
Mm.
And that's the kind of thing is like make yourself crisp. And that will benefit you later. You're building good building blocks, right? You're not building windows on the house. You're not installing an air conditioning unit. You're not moving in appliances. You're building a foundation. Like this is when you're doing dirt work. This is when you're pouring concrete. These things are not sexy, but they are
Yeah.
required. Because you can't build a house on a pile of turds. It just won't work. It will sink and smell awful. So, that being said, we've talked for an hour on silver. If there's one more piece of advice I need to give you, it's that if you're hard stuck, if you don't know what to do, if you feel like you are completely fucking lost, I have coached dozens of people, and much of those I have recorded on video and put on our website. There are coaching videos of me coaching silver players, gold players, plat players in various roles posted to our website. Go watch some of those videos. Learn from some of the stuff I told those people. Apply it to yourself.
Yeah.
Also, ask, record a video. We'll do that for you. Particularly if you're a Patreon, because we owe those guys.
True.
So I can make this work. I can help you get there, but you have to want to help yourself. Right? You have to put in the effort. There is no such thing as just playing your way out of silver. Zill, how many friends do you have that are still silver and have been silver as long as you can remember?
Probably half my friends list.
Okay. I have people, I've played this game for 8 seasons now or more?
Yeah.
I have people that I first met when I was playing the game, and I was bronze, and they were silver, and now I'm diamond. Well, I'm not anymore, but I was diamond, and they're still silver. If you
Yeah.
could play your way out of silver, you absolutely already would have done it. Okay?
Especially if you're playing games. Yep.
So you have to put in. This is the stage where you can play your way out of bronze. You can just passively make your way out of bronze by putting in games. You'll learn enough to do it over time. That can happen. It's the slowest way to do it, but it can happen. You can just grind it out. It's very difficult to grind out of silver. You have to put some effort into improvement.
That's true.
Okay. All right. This episode goes as a shout out in the honor of Eric Mirabal. Thank you, Eric, for your support of the podcast. You're the
Mirabal.
man. Yeah, it is. Eric is the man. I appreciate Eric. This is a shout out to Eric. Thank you for supporting the podcast, brother. We appreciate you. And each and every week, we will count out and call out a different supporter of the podcast and dedicate an episode to him. This is the Mirrorballin' episode. Thanks, man. And by the way, nice to see you on Discord. And to all of you other people, come hang out on our Discord. We're in there all the time. There are always people in there to play with. We have a pretty happening Discord. We can always use more people. It can always be more happening. Don't be shy. Show up and play.
Show up and play, particularly on Monday nights. Just FYI.
I forgot. Thank you.
Games have been switched to Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, and you can figure out the rest of the time zones by process of elimination. But basically, yes, Mondays, please come and play games with us. If you're new to LOLA Podcast, that's a great time to do it. Usually we group around together in the hall about 7:55, and we put as many games together basically as people want, or there are players available. So yeah, that's a great time. Also, I also want to give a shout out to a guy matched up with him in a game the other day, Leinster L. I don't know. We hung out and talked a little bit afterwards. We did not win the game together, but it was a good time playing with you, man. And I just want to give you a shout out on here while we're doing this. So yeah,
Sweet.
sometimes the internet brings people together who already know each other. It's
Well,
pretty cool.
that's amazing. So, yeah, there was one more thing I was going to say about community. Oh, right. How community games work.
Oh yeah,
We unlock the room that's the 10-man lobby room at between like 7:55 and 8 p.m. Central. If you want to be there, you need to move into that room as soon as it unlocks. That's how we do
and,
our first come first serve.
and if you're not in the room, then you can't get in the game. And
Well,
that's
or
just
you'll
basically
get in the next one.
you'll get the next one. Yeah, there's other rooms available too. It's just so that basically like people can't camp out, and get in the game. I
Yeah.
feel like it's fair to start it at a very
Yeah,
particular time.
this is
Right.
community games, not buying a PS2.
Exactly. And then the other thing that we're doing lately is we're doing a team like in order to make teams as even as possible. We have team captains now that we appoint who are kind of equal in skill level and role, and then usually they're seasoned community members, and then they pick based on what they think is going to build a good team. We found that actually works really well, and that there are less hard feelings after a loss. And don't worry if you get picked last. I'm sure we'll come up with a Fat Kid Award, to hand out.
Here's your fat kid skin.
But
Thanks for
if you
supporting the podcast.
don't worry about that. You'll earn your worth, and you're worth more than just what your skill level is too. So come around, hang out with us, get picked on a team. It's fun.
Cool. Oh, last but not least, community games have not been canceled due to coronavirus.
No, in fact, we hope for a higher turnout. The more
Yeah,
sick
that
you
may
get.
be the only thing left for you to do that won't get you coronavirus is community
Buy,
game.
buy toilet paper and play community games.
Yeah. Wash your hands. Play
Wash your
community
hands.
games.
Wash your goddamn hands.
Clean your keyboard too. Jesus Christ. That shit stays alive for like 12 days on
Yeah.
inanimate objects. Your keyboard is just waiting to kill you. Clean it. Go ahead and Lysol that bitch right now.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. I think we've wrapped it up. This is Silver. This has been Silver because you're not in Silver anymore after you've listened to this podcast. So next week, tune in for gold. We're going for gold. Olympic Elo. Ah! Good night, everybody.